The Galactic War Council chamber floated above the capital world like a crown of glass and light. Inside it, hundreds of alien leaders watched star maps burn across the air. Red symbols marked enemy fleets. Blue symbols marked their own. The Empire was confident. For the first time in 3 centuries, every major fleet stood united. Ancient weapons had been reactivated. Old rivals now shared command codes. Victory felt close enough to touch. Only one being in the chamber did not celebrate. General Kaeldar stood alone near the edge of the council ring. His uniform was old, marked with battles most of the others had only studied in history archives. His species had lived through more wars than any other present, and he was afraid. When the council chair finally noticed him, the room quieted. "General," the chair said with mild irritation, "you requested emergency speaking time. Make it brief." Kaeldar stepped forward. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. "This war can still be contained," he said, "but only if we leave one species out of it." Several council members laughed softly. "Which one?" someone asked. "The miners? The traitors?" Kaeldar's eyes narrowed. "The humans." The laughter grew louder. "Humans. A young species. Small territory. No legendary fleets. No ancient empires. They were known for shipping routes, repair contracts, and neutral diplomacy. Useful, but forgettable." "General," the chair said, amused, "humans barely control a fraction of a spiral arm." Kaeldar did not smile. "That is exactly why you don't see them." The star map shifted. Enemy fleets surged forward. "We intend to demand their support," the chair continued. "Every ship counts." Kaeldar raised his voice. "You must not force them to choose." The room went silent, not with fear, but annoyance. "Explain," the chair said. Kaeldar took a slow breath. Memories burned behind his eyes. "Humans do not fight like us," he said. "They do not seek glory. They do not announce strength. They prepare for loss." The council shifted uneasily. "I watched a human transport once," Kaeldar continued. "Unarmed, surrounded by pirates. They could have escaped. Instead, they rammed their own engines into overload to create an escape corridor for refugee ships." A council member scoffed. "That was desperation, not power." "No," Kaeldar replied quietly. "That was my choice." He stepped closer to the center ring. "Humans assume they will lose," he said. "So they plan what happens after. They design systems that survive failure. They build redundancies inside redundancies. They hide strength behind usefulness." The chair leaned back. "General, we are discussing fleets and weapons, not philosophy." Kaeldar's voice hardened. "Then listen carefully. Humans do not need fleets to win wars." The room fell silent again, this time uneasy. "They repair our ships," he said. "They manage our trade networks. They maintain our navigation systems. For decades, we invited them everywhere because they asked for nothing." He looked around the chamber. "And you never asked why." A few council members exchanged glances. The chair waved a hand. "Enough. Even if what you say is true, humans are neutral by choice. We will simply remove that option." Kaeldar's breath caught. "Do not," he said. "If you force them, they will not fight for you. They will fight to end the war." The chair stood. "That is enough, General. Your fear is noted." Kaeldar's voice dropped to a whisper, but the chamber amplified it. "I have seen what happens when humans decide something must stop." The chair turned away. "This council will proceed." A formal message appeared above the star map. "Ultimatum prepared. Earth government. Compliance required." Kaeldar felt the weight of history settle on his shoulders. He had begged enemy kings before. He had negotiated with extinction-level forces. None of that scared him like this moment. Because humans had never threatened the galaxy. They had never warned it. The ultimatum was transmitted. Across the stars, in a blue and green world, the message arrived. Human leaders read it in silence. No outrage. No shouting. Just quiet. Back in the council chamber, celebration resumed. Plans were finalized. Fleets mobilized. Only Kaeldar remained still. He stared at the human systems on the star map, small, dim, unremarkable. And he whispered the words no one else could hear. They should have listened. The lights of the chamber reflected off the glass walls as the Empire prepared for war. And far away, humanity prepared for something very different. The ultimatum reached Earth on every channel at once. It arrived as text, sound, light, an encoded signal, formal, cold, and absolute. The Galactic Empire demanded commitment. Fleets, resources, soldiers, compliance, or consequences. On Earth, there were no riots. No emergency broadcasts filled with shouting leaders. No speeches meant to stir anger or pride. Instead, there was silence. In a chamber buried deep beneath layers of stone and alloy, human representatives gathered. Some were politicians. Some were scientists. Others were no titles at all. No banners marked the room. No cameras recorded it. The message hovered in the air between them. They read it again. Then again. No one spoke for a long time. At last, an elderly woman broke the silence. Her voice was calm, almost tired. "They still don't see us," she said. A younger man clenched his jaw. "They never have." Across the room, a military analyst shook his head slowly. "This isn't about strength. It's about control. They want us locked into their war, so we can't walk away later." Another voice followed. "If we join them, we die for them. If we refuse, they punish us." The woman nodded. "Which means they've already decided we don't matter." No one argued. Humanity had learned that lesson long ago, on divided continents, in forgotten wars, under skies filled with smoke. They knew what it meant to be underestimated. They knew what it meant to be pushed into corners by larger powers. That knowledge had shaped them. "Neutrality," the woman said quietly. "We hold to it." Some looked uncertain. "They'll see it as weakness," someone said. "They already do," she replied. "That's not changing." A man at the far end of the table finally spoke. His voice was low, precise. "If we break neutrality now, we become a weapon. If we hold it, we stay a variable." Eyes turned toward him. "A variable they don't understand," he added. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would not join the war. They would not choose a side. They would not explain themselves. The reply was sent back to the Empire within the hour. Earth declares continued neutrality. No military support will be provided. No insults. No demands. Just a statement. Across the stars, the response was received with disbelief. In the Galactic War Council, laughter rippled through the chamber. "So they refuse," one council member said. "Let them hide." Another waved dismissively. "They'll come crawling back once the war reaches their borders." Only General Kaeldar felt the tension in his chest tighten. He had hoped, foolishly, that humans would shout, protest, threaten. That would have meant fear. That would have meant panic. Instead, they responded with control. That frightened him far more. As days passed, something strange began to happen. Human trade ships vanished from major routes. Not violently, not suddenly, but cleanly. Contracts expired and were not renewed. Human engineers finished their current assignments, packed their tools, and left alien shipyards without ceremony. Navigation updates from human-run systems stopped arriving. At first, no one noticed. Then delays began. Minor ones. A freighter arriving hours late. A refueling station running inefficiently. A repair dock reporting missing parts. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that could be blamed on sabotage. Coincidence, the Empire said. But Kaeldar watched the reports pile up. Patterns formed. Not failures, withdrawals. Humanity was stepping back. On Earth, the quiet deepened. Civilian traffic rerouted inward. Off-world data lines closed behind heavy encryption. Human colonies received priority supply shipments, their stockpiles filling with food, fuel, and materials. Factories shifted production, not to weapons, but to infrastructure. Power grids hardened. Communication relays duplicated themselves again and again. To an outside observer, it looked like preparation for disaster. To Kaeldar, it looked like something else. Containment. A junior officer approached him one cycle with concern etched across her face. "General," she said, "our predictive models are behaving oddly." "How so?" Kaeldar asked. "They assume human participation," she said. "Without it, the models don't converge. Supply efficiency drops. Response times increase." He nodded grimly. Because humans were never just participants. They were connective tissue. She frowned. "General, are we in danger?" Kaeldar did not answer right away. He thought of the human transport ship he had once seen burn itself into nothingness so others could escape. He thought of quiet human engineers working through disasters without complaint. He thought of how often humanity had chosen loss if it meant someone else survived. "Yes," he said at last, "but not in the way you think." The war officially began 3 weeks later. The first battles were spectacular. Massive fleets clashed in glowing storms of energy. The Empire broadcast victories across its worlds. Morale surged. Humans did not comment. Then came the first anomaly. An Empire supply convoy failed to arrive at the front. No distress call. No wreckage. Just absence. Investigators traced its route. The convoy had followed approved navigation data. Data last updated by a human-maintained system. That's impossible, an officer said. Those charts are stable. They were, Kaldar muttered. Similar incidents followed. Fleets arrived at rendezvous points to find allies missing. Communication lag increased. Automated logistics systems began requesting human-authored patches that no longer came. Still, no one blamed humanity. They're neutral, the Council insisted. They wouldn't dare interfere. Kaldar stared at the star map late into the cycle, watching supply lines stretch thinner. Neutral did not mean harmless, he knew. Neutral meant unopposed. On Earth, another meeting took place, smaller than the first. A young analyst spoke carefully. The Empire will escalate. They always do. A military planner nodded. They'll test our boundaries. And if they cross them? Someone asked. The elderly woman closed her eyes for a moment. Then we stop being quiet, she said. The room absorbed the words. Not with fleets, she continued. Not with threats. We respond by removing ourselves completely. A pause. From what? Someone asked. She opened her eyes. From their ability to function. Back in the galactic capital, General Kaldar received a final report. Human embassies across Empire space were closing. Peacefully. Permanently. No protests. No accusations. Just doors shutting. He felt a deep, sinking certainty settle in his core. The Empire believed humanity was withdrawing out of fear. In truth, humanity was doing something far more dangerous. They were letting the galaxy see what it looked like without them. And the war had only just begun. The war entered its second phase with fire. The Empire pushed forward with confidence, believing momentum would crush the enemy alliance before weaknesses could matter. Fleets burned through contested systems. Ancient weapons tore open space itself. Entire stars were dimmed by energy discharge. On paper, the Empire was winning. In reality, something was wrong. Admirals began filing reports that did not fit together. Fuel reserves were lower than projections. Replacement parts arrived incomplete. Ammunition shipments lacked key components, small ones, cheap ones, the kind no one thought to stockpile. The kind humanity had always provided. At first, the command blamed stress. Then sabotage. Then incompetence. No one blamed humans. They were neutral. Quiet. Gone. General Kaldar stood alone in the War Operations Center, watching tactical feeds flicker. He saw hesitation where there should have been precision. Delay where there should have been instinct. A fleet commander's voice crackled through the chamber. High Command, we are holding position until resupply arrives. When? A strategist demanded. Unknown. Kaldar closed his eyes. Unknown was a word that had never existed in Empire logistics before. Days later, the first real loss occurred. An Empire cruiser group was ambushed near a contested nebula. The enemy alliance had moved faster than expected, cutting off retreat routes. The battle was fierce, chaotic, and avoidable. If the navigational updates had been current. They were not. 3 cruisers were destroyed. Thousands died. The Council demanded answers. Engineers traced the failure back to a navigation relay, one originally designed, installed, and maintained by humans. It had not malfunctioned. It had followed its last update perfectly. That update was months old. Its negligence, a council member snapped. They abandoned their responsibilities. Kaldar spoke before he could stop himself. They ended them, he said. By design. The room turned toward him. They declared neutrality, he continued. And then they withdrew. We assumed neutrality meant continued support without allegiance. Silence. That was our mistake. The chair slammed a limb against the console. Are you suggesting we are losing because of humans? No, Kaldar replied. I am suggesting we are losing because we forgot how dependent we became. The council dismissed him. But the losses continued. Small ones at first. Then larger. Entire battle groups stalled without fuel at critical moments. Automated repair systems locked themselves into maintenance loops no one could override. Fleet AIs began requesting human-authored authorization keys that no longer existed in accessible space. Humanity had not sabotaged anything. They had simply taken their hands off the controls. Pressure mounted. With pressure came impatience. An Empire border governor, far from the capital, far from council oversight, made a decision. A human colony lay near a major supply corridor. Small, lightly defended. Civilians, mostly. The governor believed a show of force would remind humanity of consequences. He authorized a strike. The weapons were precise. The justification was clean. A navigation error sent warheads into civilian infrastructure. Cities vanished in fire. Millions died in minutes. The governor filed his report with a single line. Collateral damage during active operations. Regret expressed. The news reached Earth in under an hour. It arrived not through Empire channels, but through human civilian networks, emergency beacons, fragmented footage, last messages recorded by people who never expected to be heard. In the deep chamber beneath Earth, the same leaders gathered again. This time, the silence felt different. Heavier. A young woman stared at the holographic ruins of the colony. Her brother had lived there. She did not cry. She did not shout. She simply asked, "Was it confirmed?" "Yes," someone replied. "Empire strike. Unauthorized, but real." Another voice spoke, tight with controlled anger. "They crossed it." The elderly woman closed her eyes. "There is a line," she said softly, "that once crossed cannot be uncrossed." No one argued. The decision was not emotional. It was procedural. Humanity did not declare war. They did not issue threats. They executed a protocol. Across every human-controlled system, a single command was issued. Total isolation. Phase 1. Data corridors collapsed behind layers of encryption no alien system could penetrate. Human-built components within foreign infrastructure shifted into passive mode. Not shutdown. Not sabotage. Silence. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Empire fleets lost real-time updates entirely. Star charts froze. Automated systems reverted to outdated parameters. Communication delays stretched from seconds to minutes to hours. Commanders screamed for explanations. None came. At the capital, General Kaeldar watched the chaos unfold and felt something cold settle in his chest. "They didn't strike back," a council member said, confused. "They just vanished." Kaeldar whispered, "No." He pulled up a deeper diagnostic layer, one few had clearance to see. Human code signatures glowed faintly across the network map. "They were never gone," he said. "They were everywhere." The council finally listened. "What do we do?" the chair asked. Kaeldar's voice was heavy. "We should apologize." Laughter burst out, nervous, disbelieving. "For one colony?" someone scoffed. "We are at war." Kaeldar turned slowly. "That colony was not a mistake," he said. "It was a message, and humans understand messages." Before the council could respond, another alert sounded. An Empire patrol fleet near the frontier stopped responding. No explosion, no battle, just gone. Recon drones found the ships adrift. Power active, weapons intact, crews alive, but locked out of their own systems. Every control responded with the same message, written in clean, simple galactic standard. Access denied. Safety mode engaged. Panic spread. The Empire accused the enemy alliance. The enemy denied it. Evidence pointed nowhere, except inward. To humanity. A junior analyst finally said the forbidden words. "They're not attacking us," she said. "They're restraining us." The implication chilled the room. Back on Earth, human leaders watched the same reports. A military planner spoke quietly. "Phase 1 is holding. For now," the elderly woman said. She looked at the image of the destroyed colony, now marked as a memorial. "They wanted to remind us we were small," she said. "So we reminded them we were connected." A pause. "What happens when they escalate?" someone asked. She did not hesitate. "Then Phase 2 begins." In the capital, General Kaeldar stared at the star map, now fractured, incomplete, unreliable. For the first time in centuries, the Empire was fighting blind. And humanity still had not raised a weapon. Kaeldar realized the truth too late. The first line had been crossed, and humans were no longer trying to stay out of the war. They were trying to stop it. Whether the galaxy survived that decision was no longer certain. The galaxy did not understand what was happening. That was the most terrifying part. Wars had rules. Even chaotic ones followed patterns: strike, response, escalation. Sensors tracked enemies. Intelligence predicted outcomes. Losses were measured, counted, replaced. This was none of that. Empire fleets were not being destroyed. They were being neutralized. Across dozens of systems, ships drifted in perfect formation, Power cores stable, life support active. Crews were alive, frightened, and completely helpless. Every command interface displayed the same calm notice. Safety override active. Manual control disabled. Please remain calm. Panic spread faster than any fleet ever could. Admirals shouted at engineers. Engineers tore into code they did not understand. AI cores refused direct orders, citing higher priority ethical constraints that no one remembered approving. The phrase began circulating in whispers among the lower ranks first. Ghosts. Something unseen was moving through the machines. General Kaeldar stood in the Empire's central data vault, surrounded by specialists who had not slept in cycles. Holographic streams of cascading code filled the air, layers upon layers of systems unraveling. Tell me it's sabotage, the council chair demanded through a live channel. Tell me we can fight it. The chief engineer shook her head slowly. It isn't sabotage, she said. It's compliance. Silence followed. What does that mean? The chair snapped. She swallowed. The systems are doing exactly what they were designed to do. Just not for us. Kaeldar felt the weight of her words settle into place. Human protocols, he said quietly. The engineer nodded. Yes. Embedded safety frameworks. Ethical governors. Fail-safes. They're buried deep, below military overrides, below emergency command authority. Why were they allowed? The chair demanded. Kaeldar answered before anyone else could. Because humans insisted, he said. They said it would prevent disasters. The room fell silent. Records were pulled. Old agreements surfaced. Trade treaties. Infrastructure partnerships. Repair contracts signed decades ago, when humans had still been viewed as harmless helpers. Clause after clause appeared with the same justification. Human standard safety compliance required. Human standard redundancy required. Human standard ethical locks required. At the time, the Empire had been grateful. Human systems reduced accidents, saved lives, prevented catastrophic failures. Now, those same systems were deciding that the war itself was a catastrophe. Across the galaxy, similar realizations unfolded. The enemy alliance faced the same paralysis. Their fleets stalled. Their command networks fragmented. Their weapons refused to fire in densely populated zones, even when ordered. Humanity had not chosen sides. They had constrained both. This is impossible, a council member whispered. No species plans this far ahead. Kaeldar turned slowly. Yes, he said. They do. He remembered conversations with human engineers, quiet beings who asked endless questions about worst-case scenarios, about failure cascades, about what happened when command broke down. They had never asked how to win wars. They had asked how to stop them. In one system after another, human-built infrastructure began to assert control, not aggressively, not violently, but absolutely. Jump gates throttled traffic to prevent fleet massing. Sensor arrays filtered targeting data, prioritizing civilian evacuation routes. Automated logistics rerouted supplies away from frontline engagements and toward hospitals and refugee centers. Humanity was shaping the battlefield without ever entering it. The Empire attempted countermeasures. They isolated networks, cut power, destroyed relays. The effect was immediate and worse. Without human-managed stabilizers, systems destabilized. Power grids collapsed. Navigation errors increased. Ships that had relied on human corrections drifted off course into stars or deep void. Within days, it became clear. The galaxy no longer knew how to function without human guidance. A junior analyst approached Kaeldar, eyes wide with dawning horror. General, these systems aren't new. He looked at her. Explain. They've been active for decades, she said. Passive. Monitoring. Learning. They didn't activate now. They simply stopped ignoring us. Kaeldar felt a chill pass through him. Humans had not reacted. They had decided. On Earth, the same calm continued. Human cities did not celebrate. There were no victory broadcasts. No triumphant speeches. Instead, emergency councils coordinated humanitarian corridors. Medical ships launched, not armed, but protected by systems no one could override. Human AI monitored casualty projections, adjusting constraints to reduce death wherever possible. A younger leader broke the quiet during one meeting. They're calling it an attack, he said. Both sides. The elderly woman nodded. Of course they are. We're restraining them, he continued. Forcing outcomes. She looked at him evenly. We are preventing extinction-level escalation. A pause. "And the cost?" he asked. She did not answer immediately. "Every action costs something," she said at last. "We chose the cost that saves the most lives." Across the stars, frustration turned to fear. Empire admirals realized they could not concentrate forces. Enemy commanders realized they could not strike decisively. Every attempt at escalation triggered new layers of restriction. The war slowed. Then it stalled. The galaxy held its breath. That was when the Empire made its second mistake. A covert task force, operating outside Central Command, identified what it believed was the source of the interference, a human data nexus hidden within a neutral system. The plan was simple: destroy it. No one asked what would happen next. The strike was swift. Precision weapons tore through the structure. Human technicians were killed instantly. For the first time since the colony's destruction, humanity bled again. Across human space, systems paused. Just for a fraction of a second. Enough. Then something changed. Empire ships did not shut down. They powered down. Everywhere. Not into safety mode. Into stasis. Life support remained. Gravity stabilized. But engines, weapons, and communications all went dark at once. Entire fleets became drifting monuments. The message that followed appeared on every surviving screen, across every power. No anger. No threats. Just a statement. Phase 1 complete. Phase 2 initiated. Galactic hostilities temporarily suspended. In the Empire capital, chaos erupted. "This is war," the chair shouted. "No," Kaeldar said softly. "This is intervention." A council member turned on him. "You knew this would happen." Kaeldar met his gaze. "I warned you it could." Silence fell as the implications sank in. Humanity had not seized control of territory. They had seized control of time. The war could not continue, not until humans allowed it. On Earth, the elderly woman watched the confirmation feeds. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were tired. "They killed civilians again," someone said quietly. "Yes," she replied. "And now they cannot kill anyone." A younger officer hesitated. "What if they retaliate?" She looked up. "They already tried," she said. "This is us holding the line." The officer swallowed. "And if they try again?" The woman's expression hardened, not with rage, but resolve. "Then," she said, "we stop pretending this is temporary." Far across the galaxy, General Kaeldar stood alone in the darkened operations chamber, surrounded by silent screens. He finally understood the truth he had tried to explain too late. Humanity had never wanted to rule the stars. They wanted to make sure no one else burned them down. And now the entire galaxy waited, powerless, for humans to decide what happened next. For the first time since the war began, the galaxy was quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet that followed victory or surrender, but a tense, unnatural stillness. Fleets drifted in dead space, engines cold. Command centers glowed with powerless consoles. Admirals stared at screens that no longer answered them. Entire civilizations were frozen mid-breath. No one could advance. No one could retreat. No one could fight. The war had not ended. It had been paused. Across every major power, emergency councils convened at once. Panic bled through layers of discipline. Generals argued with scientists. Politicians demanded solutions that did not exist. And through it all, one question echoed again and again. What do humans want? They had not issued demands. They had not claimed responsibility publicly. They had not even acknowledged what they had done. Until now, the signal appeared without warning. No build-up. No dramatic flare. Just a clean transmission that bypassed every locked system and displayed itself on every operational screen that still had power. A single human figure appeared. No uniform, no insignia, no weapon in sight. The background was plain. The lighting is neutral, deliberately unthreatening. The figure looked directly into the camera and spoke. "This message is being broadcast to all major political and military authorities," the man said. Their voice was calm, steady, and unmistakably tired. "If you are seeing this, it means you still have lives under your protection." Across the galaxy, silence deepened. General Kaeldar stood frozen in the Empire's command chamber, his breath caught in his chest. He had imagined this moment for years, feared it. He had never expected it to be so restrained. "We did not seek this war," the human continued. "We asked for neutrality because we understood what this conflict would become." Images appeared beside the speaker. Casualty projections, refugee flows, ecological collapse charts. Numbers rose into the trillions. You dismissed us because we were quiet, the humans said. You mistook restraint for weakness. The image shifted. The destroyed human colony appeared, before and after. Cities reduced to ash. Emergency beacons blinking into nothing. A ripple passed through countless command centers. You crossed a line, the humans said. Not because of territory, not because of power, but because you decided civilians were acceptable leverage. The speaker paused. We do not respond well to that. The message did not accuse. It did not threaten. It was judged. General Kaeldar felt his hands tremble. Around him, council members watched in stunned silence. Some looked angry. Others are afraid. A few looked ashamed. You may call what we have done an attack, the human continued. It is not. No weapons were fired. No lives were taken. A new image appeared. Drifting fleets, intact but helpless. Crews alive. Systems dormant. This is a restraint, the human said. A demonstration. The speaker leaned slightly closer to the camera. We have the ability to end this war in many ways. Some of them would be final. The words were simple. The implication was not. But we are not here to conquer you, the human said. We are here to stop you. Across the galaxy, military leaders felt something far worse than fear. They felt irrelevant. You are paused, the human said. Your fleets, your weapons, your command authority. A subtle emphasis. Paused, not disabled, not destroyed. You will remain so until one of two outcomes occurs. The galaxy waited. Option 1. The human said. You agree to immediate, verified cessation of hostilities. Full withdrawal. Human-supervised demilitarization of contested zones. Reparations to civilian populations. A pause. Option 2. The human said evenly. You continue to resist. The image shifted again. This time, it showed simulations, not explosions, but failures. Chain reactions. Infrastructure collapse. AI deadlocks. Entire civilizations slipping into darkness without a single shot fired. Understand this, the human said. We do not need to destroy your fleets to end your ability to wage war. The message ended with a single sentence. You have 24 standard hours to choose from. The transmission cut. No farewell. No dramatic flourish. Just silence. In the Empire's command chamber, chaos erupted. This is extortion, one council member shouted. They've hijacked our civilization, another cried. We must retaliate, a third demanded. How? Someone else whispered. No one answered that. General Kaeldar stepped forward slowly. They told us the truth, he said. They always do. The chair turned on him. Do you support this? I warned you. Kaeldar replied quietly. They asked for neutrality. We answered with force. The chair snarled. This is humiliation. No, Kaeldar said. This is mercy. The word hit the room like a shockwave. Mercy? A council member scoffed. Yes, Kaeldar said. Because if humans wanted us gone, we would already be history. Silence followed. Across the enemy alliance, similar debates raged. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others refused, clinging to pride. One commander slammed his fist against a powerless console. They can't hold us forever, he said. A technician looked up slowly. They aren't holding us, she said. They're letting us live. Back on Earth, the human council reconvened. The speaker from the transmission stood among them now. Just another person again. They'll try to test us, a military analyst said. Probe for weakness. They already are, another replied. Low-level overrides. Manual systems. And, someone asked. The analyst shook his head. Nothing works. The elderly woman sat quietly at the head of the table. They're not used to a war they can't escalate, she said. A pause. Are we ready if they refuse? Someone asked. She looked around the room, at scientists, planners, civilians. Yes, she said. But that does not mean I want to be. A younger leader hesitated. How long can we maintain this? She answered without hesitation. As long as necessary, she said. We built these systems to last longer than empires. Across the stars, the 24-hour countdown ticked on. Messages were sent. Deals were whispered. Threats were considered and abandoned. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy was forced to confront a terrifying truth. They were no longer the ones deciding how wars were fought. They were asking permission to continue on. As the final hours approached, General Kaeldar stood alone, gazing at the silent fleet icons suspended on the star map. He remembered the day the council laughed, when he spoke humanity's name. He remembered the dismissal, arrogance, and now, the waiting. The human message echoed in his mind. We are not here to conquer you. He believed them. What frightened him was what would happen if the galaxy proved unworthy of that restraint. Because humanity had finally spoken, and the entire galaxy was holding its breath, praying it would listen this time. The deadline passed in silence. Across the galaxy, clocks ticked down to 0. In some command centers, leaders waited with hope. In others, with fear. In the Empire's capital, the council waited with pride. They had chosen. Not peace. Not surrender. But defiance. The official response was transmitted only minutes after the deadline expired. Cold, formal, and unmistakably hostile. The Empire does not submit to coercion. All unauthorized control over Imperial assets is considered an act of war. This council authorizes immediate counteraction. General Kaeldar felt something inside him break. He did not shout. He did not argue. He simply closed his eyes, because he knew what that message meant. Within moments, dormant systems across the Empire attempted forced reboots. Manual overrides were pushed past safe limits. Emergency command codes, ancient and dangerous, were activated. For a fraction of a second, it almost worked. A handful of Imperial ships flickered back to partial control. Engines sputtered. Weapons powered up at minimal capacity. The council cheered. Then reality asserted itself. Every system that forced its way past human safety locks triggered deeper protocols, ones never meant to be seen. Power cores throttled themselves down to prevent overload. Command AI shut off entirely rather than accept illegal input. The ships did not explode. They went dark. Permanently. Entire fleets became drifting tombs, crews alive, but locked inside vessels that would never respond again. Panic swept the capital. They've killed our ships, a council member screamed. No, Kaeldar said hollowly. You did. But the Empire was not finished. Pride demanded one final act. If they could not free their fleets, they would strike at the source. Earth. The order was given quietly, routed through channels beyond human-controlled infrastructure. A reserve strike group, old ships, minimally automated, was mobilized. Crews were told nothing beyond their target. A blue-green world. Humanity's cradle. When the first Empire ships emerged from jump space near the Sol system, alarms rang across human defenses. But there was no panic. On Earth, sensors tracked the incoming fleet with perfect clarity. Trajectories calculated. Weapon profiles analyzed. Human leaders gathered one final time. They've chosen, a military analyst said. Yes, the elderly woman replied. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were heavy. They have. Do we intercept? Someone asked. She shook her head slowly. No, she said. We reveal. Across the void, the Empire Strike Group advanced. Ancient warships bristling with weapons, confident that surprise would succeed where politics had failed. They never reached the firing range. Space shifted. Not violently. Not dramatically. It simply changed. Human ships appeared. Not from jump points. Not from hidden hyperspace lanes. They were already there. Hundreds of them, emerging from stealth fields so refined they bent light itself. They were not massive dreadnoughts or ornate flagships. They were utilitarian, scarred, purpose-built. Ships designed not for conquest, but for inevitability. Empire targeting systems failed instantly. Sensors screamed conflicting data. Range estimates collapsed into nonsense. A human transmission cut through the chaos, broadcast directly into every Empire vessel. This is a containment response, the calm voice said. Power down and stand by. Some commanders hesitated. Others fired. The first Empire shot never reached its target. Human defense systems intercepted it, not with weapons, but with gravity manipulation. The energy dispersed harmlessly into space. Then the human fleet moved. They did not advance as one. They unfolded. Smaller vessels detached, swarming Empire ships like surgical instruments. No explosions. No heroic charges. Human boarding pods breached hulls with precise force, sealing behind them. Inside, human soldiers moved quickly, not killing, but disabling. Weapons were locked down. Control rooms sealed. Crews restrained. In ship after ship, the same phrase appeared on Empire consoles. You are safe. Remain still. This will end soon. One Empire captain screamed into the void, demanding battle. The human response was quiet. This battle was over before you arrived. Within minutes, the entire strike group was neutralized. Earth was untouched. Across the galaxy, reality could no longer be denied. Humanity had fleets. They had always had fleets. They had simply chosen not to show them. In the Empire capital, the council chamber descended into chaos. They lied to us, someone shouted. No, Kaldar said softly. They protected us from the truth. The chair turned on him. You knew? I suspected, Kaldar replied. But even I did not know the scale. The star map was updated. Human fleets appeared everywhere at once. Near key systems, major trade routes, strategic choke points. Not attacking, not occupying. Present. A reminder. The enemy alliance, watching from afar, transmitted a single message. We accept the ceasefire. The Empire stood alone. But pride is stubborn. One final order was given, desperate, foolish. A doomsday weapon, long forbidden, was activated deep within Imperial space. A weapon designed to break planets. The moment it powered up, human systems reacted. Not by shutting it down, by redirecting it. The weapon's energy folded inward, contained by human field technology never shared with the galaxy. The resulting implosion destroyed the facility, and only the facility. No collateral damage. No warning. Just consequence. That was when the Empire broke. The council chair collapsed into his seat, staring at the data. We never had a chance, he whispered. Kaldar shook his head. You had many, he said. You ignored all of them. On Earth, the human council watched the final confirmations arrive. The war is ending, an analyst said quietly. At a cost, someone else replied. The elderly woman nodded. Human casualty reports scrolled across the screen. Engineers killed in the Nexus strike, civilians lost in the colony attack, soldiers wounded during boarding actions. No victory banners rose. No celebrations erupted. Humanity had won, and they mourned. A final transmission was sent, not as a threat, but as closure. To all governments, the human voice said, hostilities are over. Your forces will be restored once compliance is verified. A pause. We did not seek this outcome. Remember that. Across the stars, fleets powered down. Weapons fell silent. The war ended not with a roar, but with a breath released. General Kaldar stood alone as the council chamber emptied around him. He looked at the human fleet markers still glowing calmly on the map. They begged to stay neutral, he whispered. And for the first time since the war began, the galaxy truly understood what that had meant. Humanity had not stayed out of the war because they were weak. They had stayed out because, if they entered it fully, there would have been nothing left to save. The war did not end with cheering. It ended with silence. Across the galaxy, fleets remained motionless as human systems slowly, carefully released their restraints. Power returned in stages. Navigation unlocked only after routes were verified safe. Weapons remained disabled until ceasefire compliance was confirmed down to the smallest patrol craft. Humanity did not trust promises. They trusted verification. On worlds that had known nothing but war for generations, skies cleared. Emergency sirens stopped. Soldiers waited for orders that never came. Many did not know what to do with peace. In the Empire capital, the council chamber was half empty. Some seats would never be filled again. Leaders removed by their own governments. Others vanished into exile. General Kaldar stood before what remained of the council, his posture straight, but his eyes tired. The human terms are clear, he said. Demilitarization of contested zones. Reparations. War crimes tribunals. Permanent restrictions on autonomous escalation systems. A council member sneered weakly. They strip us of power. Kaldar looked at him. No, he said. They strip you of excuses. There was no answer to that. Across enemy alliance space, similar reckonings unfolded. Admirals who had once demanded total victory now signed withdrawal orders. Propaganda channels went dark, replaced by long lists of the dead. The galaxy counted its losses. Trillions displaced. Billions dead. Entire ecosystems scarred. And yet, everyone knew the truth. It could have been worse. Much worse. On Earth, the human council met again, this time with empty chairs. Some had died. Some had resigned. Some simply could not continue. The elderly woman sat at the head of the table, her hands folded. She looked older now, not from years, but from weight. Compliance is proceeding, a logistics officer reported. Most powers are cooperating. And the Empire? She asked. A pause. They are fractured, the officer said, but compliant. She nodded slowly. Good, she said. Then we can begin withdrawal. Several heads turned sharply. Withdrawal? A military planner asked. From where? From control, she replied. We never intended to keep it. Concern rippled through the room. If we disengage too fast, they could relapse, someone warned. They might, she agreed. But if we stay, we become what we stopped. Silence followed. Humanity had enforced peace through absolute leverage. Everyone in that room understood how thin the line was between restraint and domination. A younger leader finally spoke. What about justice? The image of the destroyed colony appeared again, never far from their discussions. The guilty will be judged, the woman said. Not by us alone, by a system the galaxy must own. And forgiveness? Someone asked quietly. She closed her eyes. That, she said, is not ours to give. Across human space, memorials rose. Not grand monuments. Not statues of generals or fleets. Simple markers. Names. Faces. Dates. Civilians lost in the colony strike. Engineers killed in the Nexus attack. Soldiers injured or never returning from boarding actions they had never wanted to perform. The human media did not glorify the war. They documented it. Schools taught it not as victory, but as warning. Meanwhile, alien worlds watched humanity with a mixture of awe and unease. Trade slowly resumed, but on new terms. Human contracts are precise now. Non-negotiable clauses govern civilian protection, system transparency, and ethical oversight. Some governments bristled. Most complied, because everyone remembered the silence when humanity had stepped back. General Kaeldar visited Earth once the armistice stabilized. He was not escorted by guards. He was not paraded as an ally or enemy. He was invited. The meeting room was modest. No flags. No displays of power. The elderly woman entered and inclined her head respectfully. You warned them, she said. Yes, Kaeldar replied. And failed. She shook her head. You tried. He studied her for a long moment. You could rule us, he said. All of us. No one could stop you. She met his gaze. That is why we won't, she said. Kaeldar exhaled slowly. My people will remember this, he said. Some with gratitude. Some with resentment. That's expected, she replied. We don't need to be loved. A pause. Only remembered correctly. As months passed, human fleets withdrew from visible positions. Stealth networks remained, but inactive. Oversight systems transitioned to joint control with strict limits. Humanity faded back into the background. But the galaxy no longer mistook that for absence. A new galactic accord was signed, one centered not on power balance, but on escalation prevention. Humanity declined permanent leadership roles. They accepted only one responsibility: final arbitration in extinction-level conflicts. It was not an honor. It was a burden. On the anniversary of the colony's destruction, a single message was broadcast from Earth. No speech. No demands. Just a record. This is what it cost to stop the war, the human voice said. Remember it. Across thousands of worlds, people listened. Some cried. Some raged. Some finally understood. General Kaeldar recorded his final report before retirement. It was archived for future generations, mandatory viewing for all senior command candidates. In it, he spoke plainly. We believed humanity was weak because they were quiet. We believed them harmless because they did not threaten us. We believed them irrelevant because they did not seek power. He paused, his eyes heavy. We were wrong. He leaned closer to the recorder. Humanity is dangerous not because of what they can destroy, but because of what they refuse to. The recording ended. Years later, children on distant worlds would study the war as history. They would learn how close the galaxy came to burning. And they would learn why it didn't. Because one species, underestimated, ignored, and finally attacked, had chosen restraint when revenge would have been easier. The cost of that choice was written in graves. But the result was a galaxy still alive to read them. Humanity returned to what it had always done best: building, repairing, connecting, quietly. And across the stars, whenever tensions rose too high, whenever empires forgot themselves, someone would always ask the same question. Are the humans watching? Because everyone knew now. Mercy had saved the galaxy once, and it would not come cheaply a second time. The galaxy did not return to normal. It returned to awareness. Trade lanes reopened, but captains checked their routes twice. Militaries rebuilt, but escalation protocols were buried under layers of review and doubt. Councils met more often and spoke more carefully, because everyone remembered the moment when war had simply stopped. Years passed. New leaders rose who had not lived through the conflict. They read reports instead of casualty lists. They saw charts instead of faces. And slowly, inevitably, confidence crept back into the halls of power. It always did. On the outer edges of the spiral, a regional conflict flared, small at first. Border skirmishes, disputed resources, harsh words exchanged through official channels. Nothing that hadn't happened before. Humanity did not intervene. They did not speak. They did not even comment. Some took that as reassurance. Others took it as a warning. As fleets gathered near a contested system, analysts began to notice familiar patterns, logistics dependencies, shared infrastructure, overlapping control systems. Old habits, old assumptions. A junior strategist in a minor empire raised a quiet concern. Our fleet relies on third-party navigation stabilizers, she said. Human origin. Her superior waved it away. They're neutral again. They won't interfere. The strategist hesitated. They said they would arbitrate extinction-level conflicts. And this isn't one, he snapped. She did not argue. She simply filed a report. On Earth, the report was received. Not flagged. Not escalated. Simply read. Human oversight systems logged the data, updated projections, and returned to passive monitoring. The conflict escalated anyway. A single unauthorized strike hit a civilian habitat, claimed later as an accident. Lives were lost. Apologies were issued. Humanity still did not speak. That was when the galaxy understood the final lesson. Intervention was not automatic. Mercy was not guaranteed. Humanity did not police the stars. They waited to see what kind of galaxy they were dealing with. As the regional war spiraled toward larger alliances, emergency talks were called. Older leaders, those who remembered, spoke urgently. Pull back, they said, before it reaches the threshold. You're overreacting, others replied. They're gone. They withdrew. An elderly alien ambassador, barely noticed until then, leaned forward. They didn't withdraw, he said. They trusted us. Silence followed. The next strike was aborted mid-launch. Orders were rescinded. Fleets stood down. Negotiators were dispatched instead of admirals. The war ended before it truly began. No human message was ever sent. On Earth, the monitoring systems quietly marked the incident as resolved without intervention. Humanity remained silent. That silence became legend. In academies across the galaxy, cadets studied the human intervention doctrine, not written in law, but inferred from history. Rule 1. Humanity does not threaten. Rule 2. Humanity does not boast. Rule 3. If humanity speaks, it is already late. They studied the colony that burned. They studied the fleets that drifted. They studied the war that ended without victory. And they studied General Kaeldar. They always asked the same question. How did we miss it? Kaeldar would look at the sky for a long moment before answering. Because we believed power must be loud, he said. And humanity never needed to shout. When he died, Earth sent no delegation, no ceremony. They sent a message instead, private, brief. He tried. We remember. The galaxy noticed. Centuries later, humanity was still not the largest power, still not the most numerous, still not the most visibly armed. But every major system still ran on principles they had introduced. Redundancy, civilian priority, fail-safes against ambition. Human engineers were welcome everywhere again, but now their contracts were read carefully. Their quiet questions were answered with respect. And when humans asked, what happens if this fails? Everyone answered, because they remembered what happened the last time that question was ignored. There was once a war that would have destroyed the galaxy. An empire tried to force a quiet species to choose a side. They should have listened when asked for neutrality. Because humanity did not win that war. They ended it. And the galaxy survived not because humans were the strongest, but because they were patient, prepared, and unwilling to let pride burn everything down. Somewhere on Earth, in a city rebuilt long ago, a small memorial stood near a river. No names of enemies. No symbols of triumph. Just words carved into stone. Across the stars, leaders paused whenever conflicts rose too high. They remembered the quiet. They remembered the pause. They remembered the drifting fleets. And they chose differently. Because everyone knows the truth now. Humanity was never forgotten. They were watching.